2021 is winding to a close, and what a year it's been. A lot has happened in the world of Magic over the last 12 months, and right about now, other channels are talking about things like the best and worst things to happen to the game this year. But before we greet the new year, I wanted to take my own swing at looking back through the lens of a pure Vorthos. Let other content creators talk about the best products or the worst decisions. I care exclusively about the lore, so that's what I'd like to talk about. Now, I could divide this little discussion into two parts, one focusing on the good and one focusing on the bad, but I feel it'd be better to be more casual tonight and just discuss things in the order of their release. So, friends, subscribers, new viewers, sit back, grab some hot chocolate, and relax as I say farewell to 2021 by covering the lore of the year. First things first, February saw the release of Kaldheim and the stories that accompanied the set. If I recall correctly, this was the first time I was reading stories on the channel weekly, and the Kaldheim videos were fairly well received, I think. Chapter 1 is, I think, still one of my most popular videos, but I gotta say, I was not a fan of the story. My burning hatred for Kaya aside, it really did just feel rushed. 5 short chapters, it really was not enough to really tell a good story, and while I was just as excited as everyone else to see Vorinclex show up out of nowhere, I can honestly say that the Kaldheim story has no place in my heart. Like I said, it felt rushed. We're given basically no time to really warm up to any of the characters. The gods felt pathetic. There was a big fight at the end, and it was less impressive than a DC fight. And Kaya spent the entire time just being one big Mary Sue. Dear God, I hate her so much. Also in February, we had perhaps the biggest middle finger to Vorthos players in the history of the game. The announcement of Universes Beyond, which combined with the earlier Walking Dead secret layer to cement that Magic's identity was now gladly being ripped away by WotC for profit. I have a lot of hatred for Universes Beyond as a fan of the story, but by now I've just come to accept that actual fans of the game are no longer WotC's target audience. That in mind, Universes Beyond is one of the nails in the coffin. The final one, obviously not, but it definitely erodes away the game I love so much, and I sincerely hate whoever greenlit this product line. In March, WotC released Magic Legends, a free-to-play game that I almost guarantee you don't know about. Hell, I completely forgot it until a few months later when it was announced they were closing the game servers. Why am I even mentioning this? Well, Magic Legends has lore and a story to it, though I guess now that the game's shut down, you can't really experience it. Oh well. Moving on. In April, we got the first issue of the new Boom Studios Magic Comet, and let me say, despite its flaws, this comic might be the best addition to the lore this year. Yes, I hate all 3 main characters, and yes, the first few issues had a rough start, but the story is consistent. The art and the direction seem competent enough, and best of all, it actually releases monthly, whereas the previous IDW comics were sketchy at best. The Magic comic is still ongoing, and its story has been evolving pretty well. I look forward to where it's taking us in the next year. Over in April, I believe that was the month. Yeah, I think April was also the month Strixhaven was released, and I hated the story. I really did hate the Strixhaven story. Where the Kaldheim story was rushed, the Strixhaven story was incompetent. Characters had little, if any, motivation for their actions. The plot just kind of moved in bullet points rather than anything resembling a story, and in the end, it just felt like one giant wasted opportunity. Call Time was where I started reading the weekly MTG stories on my channel, and the very next set left such a bad taste in my mouth that I decided to stop. In July, we saw the release of the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms D&D crossover set. Moving on. In September, the Magic story continued with Innistrad Midnight Hunt, and I felt no investment whatsoever in this story. So, in case you're like me and you just were completely uninterested in what was going on, let me give you a quick rundown of what happened. Let's go over this one more time. The nights on Innistrad are growing longer, and the heroes, and Kaya, want to activate this giant city-sized machine that nobody ever mentions before, with the help of a friendly coven of witches that are never mentioned before, to fix this day and night cycle. Werewolves attack, a big fight happens, and in the end, Olivia shows up, just to tease the next set. Despite how bad the story was, the worst part wasn't even in it. The worst part was that the impetus of the story, the nights growing longer, is not explained anywhere in the story. Do you know what causes the nights on Innistrad to grow longer? Emrakul in the moon. Do you know where I learned this crucial plot detail? Morrow's blog. Fuck! I hate WotC's incompetence. That is not the kind of detail you leave out of the actual story, you fucking idiots. Fuck! I'm gonna move on before I pop a blood vessel. Innistrad Crimson Vows story picks up right where Midnight Hunt leaves off, and look, the good guys spend most of their screen time actually just standing around. I'm not even joking. Soren is the only one actually trying to pull his own weight. It's an embarrassment. Hell, the story ends with Olivia and Edgar just fucking off. Everything's back to the status quo. They run into the woods. Next, I think December saw the release of the Strixhaven D&D book, which was fine. It was better than the set story was. I'm not a big fan of D&D, but I bought it like the other Magic D&D books, and I thought it was okay for what it was. I still think it could have been $20, but it's fine. It provides a few new character options, and it gives, some important lore details. I think that was everything. Oh, wait, no, that's right. Also, at some point this year, the Planes of the Multiverse visual guide was released. But I don't remember when, and it's unimportant because these Jay and Nelly visual guides are some of the worst books WotC has ever published. I would literally never recommend them to anyone. I cannot stress it enough. Jay and Nelly's books are not worth the paper they're printed on. Sometimes it's really difficult to remain positive about this game, and looking back at 2021, what little positivity I can muster dwindles fast. Sometimes I'm accused of just being perpetually grumpy, but come on. I set the bar really low, and WotC consistently lets me down. Outside of the comics, which are printed by a third-party company, nothing in the realm of Vorthos released this year gave me any real, true joy. Wizards seems determined to commit the absolute bare minimum of effort when it comes to the lore department, and the coming year doesn't promise much improvement. The teaser for the Kamigawa story showed promise, sure, but I know better than to get my hopes up after an okay first look at the story. To wrap it up, 2021 was largely another disaster for the lore. No, it wasn't as bad as 2019. I think it'd be hard to beat the War of the Spark novels in terms of terribleness, but It's clear WotC still sees the story as their unwanted stepchild. I sincerely hope that the state of the lore improves in 2022, though I fully expect more of the same low-effort stories we got this year. If that turns out to be the case, don't worry. I'm still in love with the magic lore that brought me into this game in the first place. I'm still reading and rereading old novels and short stories, and I still look forward to sharing what I love with all of you through story readings and lore videos. Regardless of what happens next year, I'll still be here, still seeking the good lore. In the end, thank you so much for your support this year. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for putting up with my incessant ramblings for about 11 minutes. And seriously, have a great day and a happy new year.